Hive today, and I am going to be speaking with Christian Ladegowski from Nextcore. I don't know if anyone's here yet, but I'm going to let a couple people get into the room and then we'll start. I'm just going to awkwardly be on here. So today we are talking about social media posting and why it's important to be doing that right now while everyone's home. I have Christian Ladegowski from Nextcore Media, and he's going to be coming onto the chat, and then once he's here, I will add him in. Me and Christian have known each other for a very long time, and I've watched him grow his media company very quickly, actually. So I think I see him entering the room. Christian, when you have a second, just hit the request, and I'll bring you on up. All right. So if anyone has questions, please put them in the comments, and I will ask Christian in the middle of our discussion. So, hey Christian, how's it going? How are you?
I'm pretty good. Compared to everything going on right now,
Oh my God.
Yes, here in Queens. It's not the prettiest story ever, unfortunately. But
yeah, you're over in like the epicenter.
On at the same time. We really are in a very interesting time. So yes, I come here as Celia was saying, like someone who's into like digital marketing and like a lot of stuff in media. I own a company called Nextcore Media, which is really cool, and we have our team like sitting there helping create content ads and pushing them online and really sticking with the internet. And it's more now an important time more now than ever because like everyone's at home and everyone's by their computers on their phones and like really absorbing this content. So it's something to really capitalize on, not even just monetary, but like also just entertainment, growth factor, many different things. And like Celia, even yourself, like you have your page and you get to do this too for your audience, which is a really big thing. And like I applaud Celia too. Like you've been putting out some great
I'm trying.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of good value there. So it's just really fascinating to like sit here in a time like this where we can like be remote and talk about it and share the love and share the fun advice we could do. So
yeah, definitely. So let's hop right in. You brought up the point that people are on their phones more than I would say ever right now because
yeah.
people are home or people are looking for news on their like Facebook timelines, their Instagram, and potentially that could be where you're being seen as well, as either an individual, a brand, as a business, because I would say that I've seen some stats that screen time is up to almost 95%.
It's true. Even from
comparatively
time too, if it's in anything, and I'll kind of just give like a hey, what's going on, Zach? Anything in regards to whether you're like a filmmaker, whether you're doing podcasts, if there's any online asset to your business, you're right. Internet traffic is on the rise. It's crazy. Like I sit here and I'm like closing websites, doing these like content things all the time, and people like coming back saying like, hey, let's get online more. Let's set up business online because that's where people are going. And I think business owners and people who have brands and you know, or influencers are realizing that this is not a time for loss, but much more of a time for gain on the internet. And that's huge. And that's pretty much what we're going to go into in depth here and like give some free content out to everyone and free value. And that's kind of the idea, is to keep people entertained and kind of inform them and educate at the same time. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So where I want to start is, what questions do you get from businesses that are kind of like the block that they have between, hey, like I know I should be doing something online, but what should I do? Like what kind of things would you tell a business in that situation?
What kind of, so you're saying like what kind of block?
Just like like what kind of content can people be putting out, say, right now?
Interesting.
I have a couple ideas, but I want to hear what you say first.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it definitely depends what type of business you're talking about. If you're an influencer, anything that brings education or entertainment to the table is like key. So if you're giving someone a good laugh, because definitely more now than ever, we can get a good laugh while we're quarantined inside. Or if we're educating like we're doing right now, every single business has the ability to do that. So if you're I mean, medical is going to be like a huge one, honestly. If you're a medical, like you want to educate people on COVID, like you want to educate people on like how to be healthy, especially in a time like this. And like, there's a lot of like big things there. If you're a filmmaker, talking about how to create that content, photographers, I'd imagine even restaurants like giving out content where it's like how to eat healthy while you're at home. Like someone who's a pro at food, like a restaurant, would be able to do that to someone online. If you are I'm trying to just think of like many angles here. If
Well,
you're
I'm
like
going to jump in.
yeah,
I'm going to jump in. So I would say the number one piece of content that every business should do right now is an announcement of how they are handling
that's
COVID-19.
fair too. Yeah, saying they're alive and well and like they're doing. I completely agree with you.
Well, I think that now is the best time to get in front of your audience, especially if you're a business owner or if you're the face of the company, and be like, hey, I know that things aren't great right now. I know that there's a lot going on, but we're still here. We're handling it this way, and we're a resource.
Exactly. It's really extending an arm. And that's cool. And this goes in like, I know something we're going to get into in a little bit is always giving to the audience. It's about you, actually, like you as listeners. It's about you and not even as much us. It's all about like, what can I do to help you? And that's what businesses should be thinking about when they're marketing. Like, what is that I'm a professional on? Even in like financial situations, how do you like, financially like account for certain things when you like might not have a job in certain cases or whatever it may be. But there's always value from the business that can always be given forward.
That's a great point. I want to bring us to the next point that we discussed earlier. What is your take on consistent content? Why is that important?
Gotcha. So there's 2 points to this. The first point, so the first side is a little bit more technical, and then the second side is a little bit more on what you're doing for entertainment factor for your people, and it's more like a brand consistency. And psychologically speaking, it's a lot better. Yo, Mikey, how's it going, man? I want my friends on here. So the first part's technical. So to stay ahead of the algorithm, like while the internet's at an all-time high, you have to realize you're not the only business. Let's say if you're like a restaurant or something, you're not the only restaurant out there trying to do this. If you're a photographer and an influencer, you're not the only influencer doing that out there. You have to stay ahead of people. And in order to do that, you have to be really in favor of Instagram's algorithm. Instagram only cares that you post. And they want to make sure that you're consistent in front of those posts. Otherwise, the people who post more than you will get in favor of that content and those likes and that screen time. Now, this is not saying post 5 times a day. You have to like, now this goes into my second part, the entertainment factor. Once a day is going to do magic wonders. You stay ahead of the algorithm while at the same time just educating your audience enough and keeping the brand in the back of your head as a viewer. So hopefully that answers the question. So
That does. And for people that are running around a lot, how would you kind of say they go about planning this? Do you think that they should do it weekly? Do you think they should do it monthly? Do you think that they should just make a ton of stuff at once and then just put it out? What would be
yes,
your recommendation?
plan the entire year. No, don't do that. I'm kidding.
I know some people that do.
People do, but yeah, that might be a lot of headache. I'm going to suggest, I always, as a company, always think 1 week in advance, because it's enough time where you know current trends and you can catch a trend and switch out content that's relevant, because trending content will really help. Obviously with current times, if there's something about toilet paper and, the lack of thereof toilet paper, you should do something funny with toilet paper, because people will really get on top of that. I was gonna say, we got a little question here.
Yeah, they want to hear a little bit about.
They want to hear more from Celia.
But no problem. No, you have a good point, and then I'll add on to it after. So you can. Well, I see what you're saying. I'm one of those crazy people that I'm doing it day by day. I definitely recommend for most people, just because I have the ability to make content every day right now. I'm home. I don't have much else to do, so I've been making videos, taking pictures, doing these lives. But every day I'm looking at Facebook, Instagram, even TikTok, and seeing what what is important, what do people want, and the biggest thing right now is something that'll make them laugh and something educational or
Exactly.
something inspiring. Because if you're sitting home and you are no longer able to do your job and you're sitting on the couch, it's a little bit depressing. For lack of a better word, everyone is going through some sort of traumatic and like thing right now. People are taking it different ways. I'm going overboard on content, but that's my choice. But you need to provide that content and that value and plan that out so that people appreciate it at the time that it needs to be put out. For instance,
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that I put out early in all of this COVID stuff was how to light a Zoom call or an Instagram call. And
Mm.
I also put out like how to film your home workout, because a lot of people, a lot of trainers, a lot of gyms have switched to doing it live. So
Yeah.
you need to be, the whole amount of you needs to be in the frame, and they need to have like a good view of it so that they can actually see what's happening.
That's you know what? That's a very good point. Yeah, like, and I completely agree with. I'll put it this way: whether we're in quarantine or not, once a week is definitely like a good amount of time in general.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and like I said, it's to keep ahead of trends and to like really plan out and say like, sometimes even people are like, oh, like motivational Monday or like
Mm-hmm.
Throwback Thursday and like all these things, which are totally fine to
Yeah.
work with. But it's cool. Like it gives you, it actually saves you more time. If you think
Oh,
about
I
it, you
agree.
could,
100%.
yeah, plan a week. Think just 2 hours of your day. You plan the week ahead, and there's like even applications out there you can like
Mm-hmm.
just automatically schedule and just leave it be, and then the next week you go for the next week. So
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty good.
For people that don't really understand what you're saying when you say trends, what do you mean by that?
Um, well, I was gonna say trends is in media trends. Anything you see online, the news is always trending. Um, I mean, Twitter trends, it could be as like a hashtag. You could literally look up a hashtag and see
Mm-hmm.
what's trending. For example, like hashtag quarantine life, or living my best indoor life, or
Or like work
um,
from home or something like that.
exactly. And the more global that you think, or actually sometimes in cases the more local you think, but in this case, if we're talking right now, you can think very globally in the case
Mm-hmm.
that we're all we're pretty much all affected by this. A certain pedigree basically, and be like, hey, how can I go with this trend and then give value back? So
I think that makes a lot of sense. I've been doing the same thing. I've been seeing what people have been tagging. I've been looking
yeah,
at what like has been popping up on my own Facebook feed and things like that, because obviously the algorithms from these different things are going to show me things that am interested in, and I can
exactly.
take that and transfer it over. I know that I get this question a lot as a videographer, and I'm going to see how I can phrase it, because
Mm-hmm.
people are afraid of putting out content that's not perfect. And I know that I battled with that for a while, but I have kind of gotten to the point where I think that getting the content out is more important than having one little thing. With one little thing wrong, instead of having like gotten it perfect, and then, for instance, like if I was waiting for that perfection, I might have one post out instead
Sure.
of like 30. How
Yeah.
what do you think about this?
Gotcha. Like this is a very interesting thing, and actually, I'll even speak from my music experience with this because I started music. Fun fact, 10 years ago, and I actually just posted for the sake of posting, and I'm glad I did that to this day because it actually made me a better musician now than it did 10 years ago. And I look back at my stuff, I'm like, oh my gosh, why did I make that? That's the weirdest thing. I can't believe I used like that sound or like that instrument. That's just I just speak from experience there, but um, so I guess two sides to that. If you're not posting, you're actually every single day preventing an opportunity for yourself to get better at content. So that's the first thing. That's the like give yourself that chance because, like I said, we have a limited time. It's a short life. Use every day possible, and like and just put what you feel out there, and that's what the internet was literally made to do. Like is to post your content. So if it's the case of like feeling fearful of it, I get where that's a thought, but also think of the long-term effects of that fear if you hold on to it too much. And if you don't post that content, what happens months and years later down the road of improving your content? So it's a very blunt answer, but without trying, like, it's basically like you, what's the phrase? There's like a motivational quote, basically like 100% of people, like, you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah, I know where you're going with that. I don't know the exact
Yeah.
quote, but the gist of what I think you're saying is, the more that you kind of try with this, the better you're going to get, and
Yeah.
the how good the content comes out will
It's a
get
very,
better as you go.
it's a long-term play. If you're thinking of like one piece of content, you want to kind of think more long-term, like what will my content look like a year from now? Just kind of like dream it big, and you know, like there's no limitations to your imagination, in all honesty. So like you can really, it really makes a difference just posting that one thing, even if it's not perfect. So yes, spend some time on it for sure. Like, you know, you need to in general, but like don't get stuck on it if it's like, oh, like I need to tweak this and it's been a month, you know, like post, like maybe give it a day, but then post it.
Definitely. I think this ties back to the first thing that we kind of discussed with like being a really good time right now to create content, because the biggest thing right now is they have the time. People have the time to create. People have the time to talk to people like us who are creators, and learn a little bit about what we do, and even team up with us if they would like to. Now is the time, because you're not in the office. You don't have to do all of these other tasks. You can sit down and you can decide, all right, I want to post in this style. I want to post this many times a week and things like that, because you can set that time apart now, because the world's kind of on a hold, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you're right, and it's cool. Like, I mean, and that's why, like, I'm so thankful to do this, because like I want to like help. If I can give something to you guys, like while you're watching, is just to give you guys another angle, like a new perspective to what. Well, one, so you don't feel absolutely bored, and like you know you have something to do, like watch us and look at our lovely faces. And then two, just, you're right, like a new angle to become better at your business, better at your career, better at the content you put out there. Um, and yeah, I know it sounds cheesy, but just starting is the answer to that. Like starting, trying the idea, and just putting it out there into the world without fear. I don't think so. I got some hearts from that.
Yeah,
Appreciate that.
I love that point, and I even am starting to do some different things than I used to do. I started a podcast. This is the podcast.
Sweet.
I doubled my posts per day, which is crazy, but I did.
There
But
you
it
go.
allows me a little bit more room to try different things. I recently made a green screen video where I was at the beach, which did
Nice.
pretty
Yeah.
well. Like,
Okay.
it
That was
was.
like the greatest thing I watched, by the way.
Thank you. For those who haven't seen it, basically, like, I was on a beach chair in front of this green screen, and it was a close shot. And like, if you look closely, you can tell it's not a real beach. But then after I play with some sand, there's a reveal, and I'm in my studio, and that's something that I typically wouldn't have time to do on a normal like week. And this time that we have now gave me the opportunity to play around and do something different.
I do have to ask, how did you get sand in the house?
I have my ways. And when I say
Okay,
my
gotcha.
ways,
Because
I
I was
mean
like really curious.
this whole green screen is held up by sandbags.
Okay, that
So
makes
I
sense.
just took
Yeah,
some of the sand from the sandbags, and that was actually Eric's idea. I know
yeah.
he's watching, so
I was gonna
Eric,
say
give
that
us
was
a
like
little
the real,
fire
like
or something.
that was like so realistic. I'm like, she picks up sand. Like everyone, you got to just check out this video on her profile, because like you're picking up the sand. I'm like, what? Like at the beach and
Well,
everything.
the interesting thing, and I think that this is a point that really should be like brought up, is I made that, and I was drinking a beer from the Great South Bay Brewery.
Oh.
The Great South Bay Brewery saw the video, reached out, told me that they loved the video, and I made a connection with them, because I was like, hey, if content gets slow, like,
No.
just let me know, and I can throw a logo on at the end of this or something for you guys, which would
Oh, that's so brilliant.
cross
I'm glad
it,
to hear
it,
that.
it would basically it would be good for them because they have a fun piece of content, but it would be good for me because they would share my face and tag me in it. So then people potentially could find more things I do.
I'm also going to, I just want to like give some thought on
Yeah.
that too. First of all, that's brilliant. Second of all,
Got to
I
turn out
always,
those labels.
yeah, you got to, you're like repping them, even though before you were repping them, but now you get to rep them. It's so cool. So like going off of that thought, by the way, a couple of friends there. Hey, Nikki. Hey, Abe. How's it going, Joanna? Got a couple of friends there. Hey, Eric. How you doing? And Steven. So off of that topic, and I always do this like in every consultation I do, cross promotion, cross promotion, cross promotion. That's like names that actually technically we're doing cross promoting right now, which is awesome. So you get to see your face, you get to see my face. And it's so key because you're actually taking audiences like on a certain path and everything, and you're basically like showing them a new angle, like I said, or new content that now is, like if they're following you and it's like, oh, there's a new face, like, oh, who's this kid? Like, I don't know. Like, but either way, doing that, whether it's via shout out, whether it's a picture, whether it's a video, and you're just mentioning something, that's connection on the spot. And that's what really makes people successful and grow. And that's a big thing. Whether you're a musician, like collabing with somebody else who's on Instagram, or you're a filmmaker working with a business, or you're a chef who works with a restaurant or like a food distributor, or it could be anything.
Or
really
you can
cool,
have a podcast like I
or
do.
if you have
and
a podcast,
you bring people on and be like, hey, come and like be involved with my audience and then share this with your audience so that they can see what we talked about and maybe follow me back. Who
exactly.
knows?
And then it goes back to the fact of starting and putting that content out in the first place, because Celia, if you never put out that beach video, would they have reached out to you?
Nope.
There you go. So that's pretty much the name of the game. And it's not supposed to be stressful. And I'm going to mention one other thing too. I know there's probably a question out there of, so what do I make? Like, yeah, I want to start, I want to do this, but like, what do I make is the question. The good news is this: you don't have to, like, it's not reinventing the wheel. You just have to basically see what success is out there. Actually, all the market research you need to do is already there. Like, there's people who have millions of followers in your industry, whether you're a filmmaker looking at another filmmaker, a model looking at another model, like whatever the case may be. The answer is out there. For me, as like a musician, I could look at a musician like, I don't know, Hans Zimmer does something really cool, like, and he's one of my favorite composers, and I can learn something from him. Or someone who's just starting on Instagram as a videographer can learn something from you, which is really cool. And or this video, hopefully. And that's the cool beauty of it. So like you can look at something and then be like, oh, let me make something similar to that. Now let me put a twist that I feel is good for me. And then that now becomes authentic to you and is
Definitely.
your own voice. So
yeah, and that brings it all back to what we've been alluding to this whole time on this live. Is it's all about providing value for your audience and taking things and figuring out what is going to be best for the conglomerate of people that you've created to follow you. For instance, I wouldn't be going around in bikini pictures because that's not what I built my page to do. I mean,
no,
my
you go
sister
around
might,
with cameras.
but yes, I go around with cameras. Exactly. And I teach people about what different things can go with cameras, like adapters, and I've done stuff on sound and all of these different things that are within the scope of what is important to my viewers and what would be interesting to them.
Exactly.
So that would be how I provide value. So I think right now, one of the big things that businesses need to do is they need to sit down, or even brands, influencers, and say, okay, the world is crazy right now. How can I provide value to my audience? And once you do that and once you narrow it down, that's when their engagement's going to start going up and people are going to remember your content. Am I right? Do you have anything to add to this?
You are 100% right about that. Yes. I would think, yes, it's, and it goes back to like what we were saying too, is if you're right, if it was an action item, like right now, any business, any influencer could sit down, and doesn't have to be like forever, but like take like a good half hour to an hour and you can sit here and just think on what can I do to entertain? What can I do to bring value to the audience that I'm talking to? And like I said, whether you're educating someone or whether you're entertaining someone, that is the way to go. And that's really cool because Celia, you're educating and also entertaining while you're on the beach. You know, like I mean, your quarantine beach, I guess.
Yes.
So
The hat and the glasses are somewhere.
yeah, that's like so good. Yeah, seriously, like that stuff is amazing. So like that's definitely what I would recommend. Like a good like time to really sit there, reflect, and use the time. Like because like I said, we got the time to do this now, and really and like really think on that. And plus, what's really great too is you can do that, but you're not alone. You really aren't. You got Celia and you got me, and it's really cool. And we've been in like industry for many, God, how many years? Like
I don't
10
want to
years.
talk about it.
I don't even want to talk about it. Yeah, so old. Oh my gosh. So like no, really many years, and like from my side in like digital marketing and hers in production. Like there's like someone you can always like talk to.
Definitely.
And, yeah, we're literally just like a DM away, and like we're even happy to continue the conversation. So
Definitely. And I think it's actually really interesting because Christian, you are very like content and analytics heavy, and I'm very image heavy. And like the practical way of how to create something. Because if someone's at home and they're like, I don't know how to take a picture of myself in my uniform, or I don't know how to speak on camera, that's something that I can very easily say, all right, if you're going to do this, you need to make sure you use the light from outside. Don't be in a dark room. You don't want to be all grainy, all of these type of things. And that's something that you can get a response to in like 2 sentences, and it'll improve your content. Like it's really just a trial and error type thing. And like we said earlier, you just keep practicing and your content will get better.
and then I'll also give something as well where I will tell you when you post something, and this actually goes very much with the image stuff, that human faces are actually the most engageable content on the planet, and the stats will tell you that. If
you
you
know,
have,
I figured that one out.
yeah, you figure there. It's basically they're so in synergy with each other. It's not even funny, and that's why it's really great content and marketing, especially those two things together. Especially now when like you know you're sitting here, you're watching this, and you're most likely like you know like at home or like doing something where you can like you know you have the ability to do this. The internet's so wide and vast, and there's so many resources to do these things. And like you said, Celia, it's as simple as like you know buying the right camera and buying the right lights or
Oh,
sound,
you could do it with
whatever
your
it is.
phone.
Yeah,
You just need
it
to know what you're doing. I'm actually developing a course right now about teaching people how to do all this from their phone. It's not
now
out
that could be
yet,
very
but
useful. So like I guess coming soon, right?
coming soon.
Coming soon,
It is
ETA
it is
soon.
in scripts on my laptop. It has
Exactly.
not that is where we're at. But
Quite
soon
a
I
work
will
in exactly. But yeah, there's a lot of value to give here. And I hope there's like a big takeaway. And whether it's from a production side or whether it's from my side, there's a lot of value to give. Like for example, one thing I could really go into we didn't get to cover on here is like a couple like growth tactics and like certain things with hashtags you could use, certain things with
Mhm.
the cross promotion and commenting strategy you can use, and really like honing in on that so you can really grow an Instagram following and like try to get paid and monetize for social media, get
Mhm.
clients, whatever the goal may be, or it's just to get a massive audience and make people laugh. Like it could be as simple as that.
Hey, I mean, that's not a bad goal. Some people just want to make people happy. But with
Exactly.
that, a lot of people get tripped up because they don't want to get roasted by the internet. And I know I
Yeah.
don't want to get roasted by the internet. So I'm very picky as to how I portray myself and how I talk on some of my pre-recorded stuff. Not so much on here because it's just us having a conversation.
Yeah.
It's two ways. It's not me looking at the camera lens and going, today we're learning the thing.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but do you find that to be something that people typically come to you about and say that they're struggling with starting because they don't want to get like either spammed or trolled or
Yeah, you know what's interesting? So brands don't get it as much. Influencers do. So this is more for like an individual. It's interesting you
hmm,
brought this up. Um, it's more from influencers. Actually, the most I've heard is when I work with models and girls who are like actresses, and it's usually female, and it's just the society that we live in where, you know, guys will oogle and be like, "Ooh, you're
Yeah.
hot," like, "Ooh, like, oh, you're so pretty," and I'm like, and sometimes that's a little tough to get by, especially when that happens very constantly. Very much so. Answer the question. Just ignore them. Like, they're just like, the fact that they're like doing that. Actually, I want you to kind of think of it in a new perspective. They're saying these things, but they're actually increasing the engagement of your post so that the people who actually care get to see it. So the fact that they put a comment down and they're like, oh, like whatever, like Googling whatever, they just made it better for Instagram to push your posts to the right people.
You know, I
I
was
don't know.
watching a Cardi B video one day, and Cardi B said to all of my haters, "You're still listening to my music,
Mm-hmm.
and it's benefiting me in the end."
Yeah.
So
So like,
you have
why
a
not? Like,
point. I mean, you shouldn't be scared of that. You should continue to do the things that you're passionate about, and put your all behind it instead of just like going about 10% and kind of cutting out all the rest.
exactly. And like when I give that answer back and they're just like, oh, really? I'm like, yeah, it's different to think about it. So like, if anyone's, it doesn't have to be just like model girls and stuff, but like, it could be any like influencer who's just like getting a little bit of slack, and it's just like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, like your stuff stinks. And it's like, well, you know what? You just helped me gain more traction. So like,
Yeah, they
thank
also
you.
took the effort to let you know
Yeah.
that,
And
which
they're still
means that they
listening to your
care
stuff
to a
anyway and
certain,
watching.
yeah, they care like a certain amount to
Yeah.
actually make that comment.
Haters
Um,
are still, I guess, decent acquaintances or something.
hey, keep your enemies close, I guess.
Yeah, right.
Not
That
that they're
phrase.
enemies, but uh,
Exactly.
but they'll come back and watch a lot of the time. So.
That's true. I mean, yeah, like it's, you're right. So I mean, like if it hopefully like answers that question, like you're right. It's nothing to worry
Mm-hmm.
about if it like gives some like good relief to that. Yeah.
Definitely.
And if someone really like stings you the wrong way, just ignore them. And like, you know, technically, if they really sting you the wrong way, there's a thing called blocking. You can do that
Mm.
too. Like you don't have to look at their stuff. Like, you know.
Very
So
true. Very
there you
true.
go.
I have one more question I would like to ask you
Sure.
before we start recapping and bringing everything to the end.
Sure.
We're talking about comments and engagement right now. Do you have a couple of quick tips for people to get some engagement on their like posts, like maybe getting more comments, how they can go about that?
All right. There's the it's called the 313 method. Oh no, sorry. The 131 method, my bad.
I feel like I'm listening to you talk about haikus, so
Yeah,
you
it's
gotta give me a little more.
one line, three line, and one line. Yeah, exactly. So the 131 method is as follows. Follow the account first, like the first three photos, comment on one of those photos. You
Okay.
get 5 engagements in the notifications from the same person if you
Mm-hmm.
do that. And you have to obviously do it like at the same time, but honestly, it only
Mm-hmm.
takes like what, 10 seconds to do it for a
Yeah.
user.
Mm-hmm.
So the 131, follow, 3 likes, 1 comment. Um,
Okay.
Even if you feel so compelled, share their content too, and
Mm-hmm.
like you can put on your story if you're like so inspired. You'll definitely get their attention. They're gonna want to check out your profile.
Okay. And then for getting comments on their stuff, what would you recommend? Like asking questions, or is there a better
Oh,
way
like
or
if
a
I'm a
certain
user
kind of,
and like I
yeah.
want people to engage with me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it goes to the the value factor always as well. So if you entertain someone so much that they like, I'll put it this way: it takes guts to put a comment on the internet nowadays. Like, it's
I
one thing to do a
know.
like, but like you
Mm-hmm.
have to take time, 5 seconds of time to write that comment.
At least.
At least it depends. But if you inspire someone so much and make them laugh,
Mm-hmm.
you'll definitely get that engagement. And if you're educating people, yes, doing questions. You're right. Like, what do you think on a certain topic? Like, here's
Mm-hmm.
like my thought. What do you think? And like, it's basically kind of like putting the ball in their court. So like, you're totally
Yes.
right. Like using some of the Instagram features, like in stories where you can use like polls and like questions and stuff. That's always useful.
Mm-hmm.
Even in posts, you
Yeah.
can, yeah.
I in posts I've asked questions before, like the other day I put up a video shot of a Canon C300, and I was like, what kind of cameras do you guys like to use? I mean, I didn't get a ton of posts, but the posts that I did, it meant something to the person who was actually leaving the post. They gave me the cameras that they use, the lenses that they use, the different systems. Like it wasn't like I use Canon. It was an in-depth answer, and there was able to be conversation made from that. So
Interesting.
it is
Interesting.
interesting.
I like it. Yeah, it's very open-ended and like for well, you know what's really cool, by the way? If you're a filmmaker, especially if you're making media, I think what's really cool, actually filmmakers, photographers, anything that has a very behind the scenes situation, show them behind the scenes, because that really like brings up a lot of questions of how did you do that?
Mm-hmm.
If that makes any sense. Um,
I am
or like,
familiar
how
with
did
this
you edit
topic.
this? How did you
Yes.
edit? How did you do that animation? Oh, that's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
So they get to admire the process.
Very good tip. Very good tip.
Yeah.
So, as like a recap, we talked
Yeah.
about how you need to provide like value to your viewers, your following.
Exactly, your audience.
It's always like weird. Yeah, your audience. You need to make consistent content, and now is a great time. So I think, do you have any closing statements that you would like to make, especially if there's anything that you'd like to add on those few things real quick?
Gotcha. So yeah, I think there's I was gonna say definitely recap this because Celia, you said you're gonna be posting this somewhere, right?
Yes, this is going to go onto my YouTube channel, and then once the link's out, you can find it on Facebook, LinkedIn, the works.
Awesome. Sweet. So you're gonna definitely have that side. So yeah, from my side is we gave you a lot of advice. But like I said, the great thing is you're not alone in this situation. You really can learn a lot from like people who have been in industry, and I say that for Celia and myself. We're here to help. You can always DM Celia, and you can talk to her or me or one of us at any point. And like I said, it's a really cool journey. It's definitely something to look into now, and I hope that this helps. So thank you very much.
No problem. And where can everyone find you? What's the best way to get a hold of you? Because I feel like that's information that's very important right now.
That is very true. Well, if you are watching this, you could see that my handle there is Christian Ladagoski on Instagram. I'm very active on Instagram. Most of the time, I'm posting memes. Recently, it's a lot of memes about the quarantine, so you'll enjoy that. So, like, if it's a little bit of entertainment factor, I could give you that. But yeah, definitely on Instagram is a great start, and you can reach me there.
Awesome. And just so we can review, what's your business one as well?
Yes. Next. So actually, if you go to my personal, it's linked there too. So it's Nextcore Media. So it's Nextcore Media. That is my digital marketing agency. Really cool. We work with influencers and businesses alike. Been doing it for years, and like actually, it's cool. We've worked with accounts from 0 all the way to 6 million followers. So it's a really cool thing that we can help you out no matter what level you're at. So we're here to help.
Well, maybe I'll have to set up a consultation with you now again,
Oh, you're
and
ready? Yeah,
we'll
let's
grow
go.
all this
Yeah,
up.
we got
But
this.
definitely reach out to Christian if you are interested in talking about what options you have and what's going to help your brand. Thank you to everyone in the comments for coming and spending some time with us today.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for coming on, Christian. Hopefully we can have you back in the future. I'm going to be doing many of these, and I know that you have a lot to say about this
Absolutely. It's
topic.
been an honor and a pleasure to be here with you and your fans. And you got it. Absolutely.
Alrighty, well, stay safe, stay inside, and I hope that everything passes very quickly by your house.
I hope so too. We'll pray for everyone in New York here, and I'm praying for the world too. But yeah, it's pretty interesting. But yeah, everyone stay safe. And yeah, let's kick some butt, everyone. Go make that content.
Alrighty, bye, Christian.
Bye.